Okay, Huckleberry Finn, he's already faked his own death and has escaped on a canoe down the Mississippi River and is trolling, and he's just seen a campfire through the trees, and now he's trying to find it.
So I took my gun and slipped off towards where I run across the campfire, stopping every minute or two to listen. But I had no luck. Somehow I couldn't seem to find the place. And by, sure enough, I caught a glimpse of the campfire, away through the trees. And I went for it, cautious and slow. And by, I was close enough to have a look. And there, on the ground, laid a man. It most give me the fantods. He had a blanket around his head, and he was nearly in the fire. I sat there behind a clump of bushes. He put a blanket around his head, and his head was nearly in the fire. I sat there in a clump of bushes, in about 6 foot of him, and kept my eyes on him steady. Getting gray after daylight now, and soon he gasped and stretched himself and hove over the blanket. It was Miss Swanson's Jim. I bet I was glad to see him. I says, "Hello, Jim." He bounced up and stared at me wildly. Then he drops down on his knees and he puts his hands together and says,
"Don't hurt me. Don't. I ain't ever done no harm to a ghost. I always liked dead people and done all I could for 'em. You go and get in the river again where you belong, and don't do nothing to old Jim, what was always your friend."
Well, I weren't long making him understand I wasn't dead, so I was ever so glad to see Jim, and I weren't so lonesome now. So I told him I weren't afraid of having him tell people where I was. I talked along, but he only sat there and looked at me, and never said anything. Then I says, "It's good daylight. Let's get breakfast. Make up your campfire good."
What the use in making up the campfire to cook strawberries and such truck? But you got guns, ain't you? Then we can get something better than strawberries.
"Strawberries and such truck?" I says. "Is that what you live on?"
I couldn't get nothing else.
"Why, how long have you been on this island, Jim?"
I came here the night after you was killed.
"What? All that time?
Yes, indeed.
And you ain't had nothing else but that kind of rubbish to eat?"
Nah, sir, nothing else.
"Well, you must be starved, ain't you?"
I reckon I could eat a horse. I think I could. How long you been on the island?
"Since the night I got killed."
No. What has you lived on? But you got a gun. Oh yes, you got a gun. That's good. Now you kill something and I'll get up the fire.
So we went over to where the canoe was. And while he was building a fire in the grassy open place amongst the trees, I fetched a meal and bacon, and the coffee pot, and the frying pan, and the sugar, and the tin cups. And the nigger was set in the back considerably, because he reckoned it was all done with witchcraft. I catched a big catfish too, and Jim cleaned him with his knife, and fried him. After breakfast was ready, we lay on the grass and eat it smoking hot. Jim laid with all his might, for he was about the most starved, and when he got pretty well stuffed, we laid off and lazied.
For the second scene of the movie, Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, and Jim are running away from farmers, and they just got back to the raft.
We was all glad as we could be, but Tom was the gladdest of all, because he had a bullet in the back of his calf. When me and Jim heard that, we didn't feel so brash as we did before. It was hurting him considerably and bleeding, so we laid him in the wigwam and tore up one of the Duke's shirts for a bandage to bandage him. But he says,
"Give me them rags. I can do 'em myself." Don't stop now. Don't fool around here. Invasion booming.
I'm Peter.
Mario.
Back there is Sam. This is Huckleberry Finn.
Sam does not go to JP, but he helped out with the movie. This is Jim.
Tom Sawyer.
Alright. We chose Huckleberry Finn because we all had to do it as a summer reading project, and we figured we'd make a movie.
Yeah, we did the first scene because, you know, it's when he first he actually meets Jim. Like, he's got a actual dialogue with Jim, and then, you know, then they become friends, best friends pretty much. And then that kind of starts him down the road to how he, you know, accepts Jim even though he's black, like he was a slave. And then that leads to his famous line where he says he'd rather go to hell than let Jim go back to slavery. The second scene, when he's with Aunt Sally, and then he's with Tom, and then they go in the room, and then they take Jim, and they're trying to escape, and then the farmers, they come after him. The farmers, they come after him with guns, and that has to be scary. I mean, it sounds like he was afraid, and then you know, of course, Tom has to get caught, and they can't just get away home free. They hear noise, and that sets off the farmers, and they can hear him, and then so they book it, and they try to get to the raft, and then they farmers, and they can hear him, and then so they book it, and they try to get to the